Good evening, everybody. My name is Bill Warner, and I'm with EntreDot. And welcome. We're live on Monday night, like we usually are, but this time 7:30. We usually meet at 7. I had a previous meeting and had to put it off a half hour. Hope you don't mind. But welcome. I look forward to talking to you. We're going to talk about the first sales call. Now, what I mean by that is when you have a customer prospect who you have not yet met. Maybe you've talked on the phone and maybe met at a networking event or something like that, but you have not yet called on them with your quote official, full-blown sales presentation. This is the first sales call. Now, I'm mainly talking about B2B kind of situations here. What I'm going to go through now, you do not want to do in B2C. Or online retail, e-commerce, or anything like that, where you're selling something for $29.95, you're not going to make a 3-hour sales call. It doesn't make sense, right? So this is B2B stuff. So listen up. So let's set the scene. The first thing that's got to happen is the customer prospect must have been qualified by somebody. Now, in some companies, that's done within the marketing organization, but in much smaller companies, it's done by the salesperson themselves. They're qualifying their own leads. So what does qualification mean? And I've talked about this many times when we're doing marketing presentations. Prior to you setting up any sort of sales meeting, you want to know a few things. One is, does this prospect have the need that you know how to fulfill? And through a series of questions you may have previously asked them, you determined that. And secondly, they are highly interested in having you solve it, because your solution, what you're offering in products and services, seems to address this need in their eyes, and they've told you so. Thirdly, this is a serious need that they have. It's urgent. It's something they want to do. They're actively thinking about doing something about it, like right now. Not planning for it for next year or thinking about getting it in the operating budget for next year or something we're going to do within the next year. They're interested now. You want to know that, because you don't want to be calling on people that are not really ready to buy anything. Makes sense, right? You're certainly going to follow up with them, but at a later time, but you're not going to spend an hour or more in a sales meeting with them. And then also, they have the wherewithal to pay. You've determined they do have a budget for this kind of thing. This is a known and urgent problem, and they're planning for it. They have money to pay for some solution, and you may be the one. So with those 4 questions answered, you've got a qualified lead. It is now worth your time to approach them in a sales call and enter into your sales process with them. So you also got to make sure that this is still all in preparation, that you make sure that you're really going to be talking to the economic buyer. Fancy term. I think I learned that in sales school or something. It's the person who's going to make the decision to buy. They have the purchasing authority or has enough sign-off that it will influence any other people that have to vote on whether or not to buy your solution or not. So it's the most influential person in making the decision to buy. Some people say, oh, they're the one that writes the check. Well, that hardly happens at a company. Somebody else writes the check, but they tell them to do it. That you also, in preparation for the sales meeting, you've established the purpose of the meeting. This is a sales call. I'm going to talk to you about what we think we can do about solving this problem for you. I'd like to spend some time and go through it with you. You made that kind of suggestion, and there's a time, and the economic buyer is going to show up. You may have other people that he or she will bring along. That's okay, as long as you're principal buyer is there. And you have now agreed on a time to meet. That's a marketing preparation. But the salesperson probably did anyway. Okay, now you got to get prepared. You're going to show up now. What are you going to show up with? So you have probably already done some research on the company prior to doing their marketing qualification work, but you want to go to the website, their website, and really try to divine what their strategy is, what their value proposition is. It should be right there in front of you if it's a good website. You want to know who's on the team. Who are these people? Look them up then on LinkedIn and check out their profile. What are their backgrounds? So you can start getting some semblance of an idea of if your economic buyer could be the CEO or the head of marketing or the head of development, whatever it is you're selling. They're probably featured there in the management team on their website. And there may be others within the company that possibly could show up in the meeting. In fact, if your prospect said who they'd like to bring along, you'll check them out too. But read about them, get smart about them, because you're about to confront them. It will be very impressive if in the course of your presentation that you'll make here, and I'll get to in a minute, is that if you can relate to these people without even knowing them. They'll say, well, God, he checked us out, didn't he? Well, that'll be impressive. It says you care, for God's sakes. That's a good thing. So check them out. Check them out on Facebook too. See what they post. See a little bit about their personal lives. Now, you certainly have done competitive analysis, but on your company, it'd be a good idea to figure out who their competitors are. Who are they up against? You'll get a sense for their business and the challenges that they have in entering their own markets. So see what I'm doing? I'm trying to suggest that you get as smart as you can with readily available information. You're not going to go hire consultants to give you reports and all that sort of stuff. But you can learn a lot from social media presence, LinkedIn and Facebook in particular, and their website. You can type the company name into Google and see what is written about them if you want to go that far. But you're spending time checking them out. Time well spent. Because you're going to walk into the room when we finally get to this meeting that we're talking about with a lot of preparation already done. So what do you need to get ready for the actual meeting itself now? You need a sales pitch. And I'm going to go through what's in a sales pitch in a little while. But it's the typical intro, purpose of the meeting, recap where we left off in our conversation, share your perspective of what you've learned so far. This is 5 or 6 minutes, not in the first part of the meeting. But then you're going to go through a process of getting them to talk to you about their needs in more depth, and you're going to encourage it. You're going to ask more questions, but more about that in a minute. So if you have, so prepare this presentation, professionally done. PowerPoint, that's still okay. There's nothing wrong with PowerPoint. Use it, for God's sakes. It's fine. If it's the kind of thing that is appropriate for a demo, if you prearranged showing them something, make sure the demo works. Test it out before you go. Don't try to run it on their machines. Take your own with you. Don't rely on their internet. Don't rely on the internet at all. Have it all self-contained in one place. If there's anything more embarrassing that say, hey, is your internet working? Well, and then your demo goes to hell. You're dead in the water, and you're embarrassed. You're embarrassed by it. Don't let that happen to you. You'll assemble a team of people to take with you, a small team, one or two more maybe relevant people that are going to be part of the sales process, as well as pulling together the proposal that you eventually want to make to them. So you're going to meet a couple of people, you're going to introduce a couple of people on your team in this meeting to show as a show of force that you've got people that are really going to pay attention to this. They may bring some of their people too. You don't restrict it. If they bring 10, that's okay with me. You can be outnumbered. You're smarter than them all of them. So don't worry. So of this team and all this preparation, have a briefing before you go. Share what we know, what we're about to do. 30, 40-minute kind of discussion, two or three of you. And this very few that attend are all together now. If you pre-briefed each other, a day before the meeting or something like that. So that's getting ready. So with all of that, you're ready. You go there with your computer, with your presentation on it, and your people in tow. Any other materials that you have in terms of brochures and data sheets and other briefing material, testimonials. You might have a booklet of all this stuff that you hand to, everyone in the room. So take 5 to 10 of them. If 3 show up, you just hand out 3. If 10 show up, you hand them all out. So you're prepared for that. Okay, the day comes. Now we've got a sales meeting. I'll get my notes straight here in front of me. There. So let's paint the picture. You're going to enter a conference room probably, and at some point they walk in, or you walk in and they're already there. Now it's time to start getting to know each other. So this is chit chat time, and it's okay. You don't have to rush to the table and get your computer set up. Although maybe one of you does that while you are carrying on a conversation with the principal, the economic buyer. Let's just call him for short, the buyer. So you're getting to know each other. It's the first time you've met face to face. Come prepared to, since you know this person, come with 2 or 3 questions that have to do with them as people. I see you play golf at Northridge. Or I see you're an avid kayaker. That must be a lot of fun. Or you do a lot of deep sea fishing. How long have you been doing that? So you start the ball rolling with a casual conversation. They may ask you the same kind of thing. They know what's going on. You're trying to get to know them. I'm going to tell you later really why you're doing this. But for starters, you're starting to build a relationship. More about that later. But that's what's going on here. So in 5 minutes, you have this casual chat. By the way, you arrived early. You did not arrive in a rush, right on time and scurrying around to get to the right conference room and barging in the door at the crack of 8 a.m. when you were supposed to be there. Be early. Always be early, and be willing to stay late. So give yourself an hour buffer at the end of this in case the meeting goes longer. Because if you do well, it's very likely to. That would be okay, wouldn't it? So either the buyer or you suggest, well, we sit down and start our meeting. So you take the lead. Or they may want to introduce you and the rest of the team and give their purpose for the meeting, but then it's going to be your turn. It says the purpose of this meeting is to follow up on the conversations we've had, blah, 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 and the many issues that you've shared with us. And we're here to recap that and share our perspectives on it and get into what we might be able to do to help you with these. Then when you've gone through this introduction, I mentioned in the agenda in your presentation, because your slides are up on the screen right now. So everybody's gotten introduced. You've reiterated the purpose of the meeting. Maybe the buyer did that for you. Either one. You say, "Yep, that's right. That's what we're here for." Somehow between the two of you recap what we have established so far, and you take the next step and share a perspective that you have on where we're headed and what we're trying to do here today. And you do that in a way that is expressing your understanding of the needs that they have. Don't go too deep. Don't be overly specific, because you want them talking about their needs, which is the next thing in the agenda. Your slides don't say this. Your slide simply says discussion about the needs of the business. But you literally ask the buyer, would you would say, this is my overall understanding of the issues that face you. It would be very helpful if you would share with me and the rest of my team your perspective and in more depth the issues that you're facing. And let them talk. Shut up. None of you from your company ask any questions yet. They certainly don't say anything about what they can do for them. You listen attentively. You're not sitting back, doing text on your phone or checking out your voicemail or doing anything other than staring at this person and listening and nodding with understanding. Seriously. You're showing your interest. Now, don't do it in some fake way. Be real about it. Really listen. You want to learn. Take notes if you want. That would be just fine. But as the buyer talks, you hear things perhaps you didn't hear before in your previous qualification conversation. Let him or her finish, but then ask another question for further clarifications on these things you didn't understand. Or you may have heard something not only new, but in much broader depth than you've heard before. And you keep the ball rolling by asking them questions. Now, this can go on another 10, 12, 15 minutes maybe. Because what you're doing is loading up your brain and your people with you, their brains, on what it is that's bothering them, what their issues are, what the impact of these issues are to their business. Why are they so concerned about it? Why haven't they done something about it already? Or maybe they have and they haven't found an adequate solution. But you want to know as much as you can before you blurt out what you're going to be able to do for them. Because you're hearing validation for what you think you knew about their needs. So 80% of what this person, the buyer, tells you probably is something you kind of already appreciated and gained a perspective on. But you're looking for the fine tuning of by learning what you didn't hear or what they didn't tell you that might be all brand new for you. And you, the salesperson, are, as you hear new things, are mentally going to modify. You're saying, "Oh, I'm going to talk about that when I get to slide 4," or that you're tuning the way you're going to present. You're going to play to their needs because now you got a full diet of it. You got the full scope. So when you get into the meat of your presentation, you can relate what you're going to be able to offer them to their needs directly, one-to-one relationship with each. Boom, boom, boom. So this has all been a setup to train you up on their needs so that you say the right thing when you present what you're going to do about them. So you sound complete and comprehensive and responsive. So we're into this agenda now. You've listened now. 15 minutes later, you're ready to say, thank you very much. That is very helpful. I've got lots of new understanding based on this last conversation. Thanks. Let me tell you more. No, it's your turn. Now let me tell you more about what we have to offer. And this is where you go through your slides, explaining your products and your services, the benefits that they bring to the customer. In other words, your value proposition. And this could take another 15, 20 minutes. It's not an hour and a half. It's straight to the point, concise, benefits, quantifiably so. And you go through these benefits, but also when these products and or services are available, presumably now, they require installation support. You know, how are we gonna? What's the support structure that's going to be available to them to train them, to get them up to speed on how to use what it is you're going to be offering them. You're going to go through your pricing methodology at least. You're not going to give them a price for anything yet because you haven't proposed anything yet. You told them what's possible so far. And in the course of this, you're going to answer their questions. Simple. Let them ask their questions as they go along. Don't do one of these. I wish you would wait till the end of my brilliant presentation before you answer questions, before you ask me questions. Baloney. Keep this light. Not be so bureaucratic about it. Let them ask the questions as you go along. So after you get through this presentation and the Q&A, you're going to ask, how does this sound to you? Is this something that you would seriously consider as a solution to these many needs you've shared with us? What you're hoping to hear is, yeah, it looks very much so. What do you guys think? And you get around the table, their team is saying the same thing to you. Now you know you're at least got to go to the next step with them. So let's play that out a minute before we get to rejection. So they're going to be very interested. So you now simply say, look, what we'd like to do next is take what we've learned and what we've discussed here in this conversation and bring back to you in a few days a proposal on how we can provide our software and hardware and the services we offer to solve these very issues one by one in a very comprehensive way. And we'll give you functionality, the capabilities that we're going to be able to offer you that we can demonstrate. And we've proven in other installations that we've had to solve these very same problems that you're facing. Included in that will be a proposed delivery time frame and a price and the payment terms. Would that be acceptable to you? And they will say, sure. Hey, we can't do it in 3 days here. We certainly could meet you towards the end of next week. You say that'd be fine. We can use the extra time and add some further value to what we're going to present to you. But then you want to know a few more things. Say, look, when we bring you this proposal, could you tell us more about what the path is to a decision to purchase or decide not to? How does it work here in this company? What you're trying to get from them? I mean, what is the goat rodeo you're going to have to play in order for a decision to be made? So you walk out of the room later knowing the steps that are going to be taken. There's a process for purchase. So large companies have very elaborate processes with executive committees that review proposals and vote on them and invite you back to present even more to answer their further questions. It could go on for months. And, with some companies that have very elaborate processes for purchasing major products. I'm not sure that you're going to run into that at all. If you're in the small business world, it's unlikely, but they will. There is a step to get whoever has to approve and start the ball rolling and signing an agreement that you'll present to them, and then hand you the check for the first payment. So that's your first sales meeting. Isn't that fun? So there's a lot to this, a lot of moving parts. But the bottom line of this, though, that's more a way to say it. It's not the bottom line. What will make this successful is, yes, certainly your products and services and being responsive to their needs. What's really going to ice it for you is the fact that you're building a relationship, a mutual relationship with yourself and the economic buyer. That's why you started to get to know them in the first place, in the first 5 minutes. Remember that? And your very demeanor and the way you address this person and you handle his or her questions is showing that you care, showing that you respect this individual. You're building trust. You do things to build trust. You give straight answers. You're not evasive. When asked a question, you answer it without running around the barn 4 times. Your answer is in 45 seconds. Practice that, the 45-second answer. And kick yourself if it took a minute. Be generous. Be generous with your thinking. Be generous with your suggestions. It's okay to provide advice and guidance, something about their business. You're in a position of having met a lot of customers. You probably know a lot of things about how companies run. So if there's an opportunity to help them, and it doesn't take much time away from what your real role is, which is sales in your company, help them. That builds trust. Respect their time. Respect their opinions. So I said already, be early and leave late, or be ready to leave late. Respect their traditions. When you walk into a company, see what's going on. Compliment them. That game room is really extraordinary. I've never seen one like that. People must have fun here. Your cafeteria, if you had lunch in the cafeteria, that cafeteria food was extraordinary. I can see why employees must love working here. You get a tone of what's going on in the company by just seeing people interact with one another. Compliment them on what looks like a strong team. So be observant and pass compliments across accordingly. Share your ideas. But in all of this, be authentic, be real. If this comes across like an act, you will not build trust. Be authentic. So that's my message for tonight. Your first sales call. It won't be your first sales call, but your first sales call to a particular customer. I do have one question here from someone, and I should have covered this already. Well, what if they say no? That's an obvious thing I should have covered. What if they say, well, no, I'm going to have to think about this. We're not really ready to take this next step on reviewing a proposal. Then you might ask, well, what are the next steps in your opinion then? What has to happen to next for us to be able to present you a proposal? So a good salesperson is going to have comebacks to these kinds of objections. And there are lots of others. I didn't intend to take the time tonight to give a briefing on how to handle objections, but that's a whole subject in and of itself. But the answer in all of them is find the way to get the customer to talk about, well, what does it take to take this next step of letting us provide you a proposal? Same things will occur once they've got the proposal. All sorts of other objections are going to come up. But there's books written on this, how to handle objections. So maybe pick one of them up too. But there's ways to handle these things. But if it's an absolute no, you say, well, thank them, pack up your computer, put it in your briefcase or under your arm, and don't be angry, don't be vindictive, but leave the door open that they might change their mind someday. Really great to meet you. I wish you well in your business. The best of luck to you. Hope to see you soon. Bye. So that's it for tonight. Again, my name is Bill Warner with EntreDot. Have a great evening, and I hope to talk to you again real soon. Good night.